Hello, everyone, and welcome back to New York Comic Con. I am here in our awesome lounge here with the courtesy of Courtyard. Awesome time here at the show so far. But this one actually, this particular segment is important for me because I'm a huge fan of Call of Duty, and what we're here to talk about today is the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 prequel comic, and I am joined by one and only Larry Hama, the writer of the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 prequel comic. Larry, how are you doing, man?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. So, very exciting stuff. You guys released the first version, or the first issue, excuse me, by San Diego Comic-Con, I believe,
Well,
right?
the ash can of
Yeah.
the first issue, right?
And how's that reception been so far for it?
Very good.
Nice, nice. And so I did want to ask you about some of the challenges because Call of Duty, traditionally a game known for its multiplayer, but has a great single-player campaign as well. And Black Ops 3 in particular has a really fun story, really interesting story that spans across generations. I guess I want to ask you about some of the challenges in regards to making a comic book for a video game, because oftentimes you hear about making, turning a like a video game into a movie or a comic book into a movie. But very rarely do you have this conversation where it's like, all right, let's talk about bringing something that's very digital and very interactive to, the pages and show off that life, show off that vibrancy. So what were some of the challenges there?
Well, there's an intrinsic difficulty in translating a game into a narrative story. Since gameplay involves all these other things that have nothing to do with narrative and character development. It has to do with, uh, decision making and actual physical dexterity with, being able to manipulate the, and you can't get that across in a comic book at all.
Yeah.
So we had to choose what we can do well, which is, continuity narrative and character development and character interaction and development. So that you have all these things that you can't really do in the game. We take that and we amplify that and try to make it work within a narrative format.
Oh, that's awesome. And when you really do think about how you would actually make that work with a company like Activision and Treyarch.
Right.
How have they been? I mean, obviously, I'm sure they've been super collaborative throughout this entire process.
Yes. I get a lot of support and a lot of reference material. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff you have to to study. But years ago I had written the backstory and written the cutscenes for the Wolverine game for Activision. And in the PlayStation magazine, they did a review of it, and they said, "Well, this is the first game where the backstory actually makes some sense."
Yeah, I actually remember that. Was that the Oh yeah, Wolverine.
Wolverine's Revenge.
Yeah, Wolverine's Revenge. That was actually a really fun game to play. So
it was a difficult game to play.
It was a tough game to play.
I think that was
had
the
a good story
drawback
though.
to it.
Yeah.
It was. I couldn't get past the third level myself. I mean, it was just very.
Are you a gamer? Are you a?
I'm not. I don't consider myself a gamer, but I've got consoles and I've.
You got to know the material, right? You got to know the material.
I got as far as riding the train out of Raccoon City.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that.
I've had to use like sheets and stuff like that to get that far, but sometimes I want to see what happens, and when they sent me a disc of the Wolverine game, I said, well, can you just send me a disc with all the
with the story
with all the shots in it? And they said, no, just play it through.
It's funny. I actually remember that. I remember the game in itself, but to know that you actually contributed to that and wrote that is pretty cool.
I storyboarded it.
Yeah,
also.
you storyboarded it. That's so cool.
The thing is, I was familiar with how the mechanics of translating a game into a narrative, because I knew what how the game works, and I knew about cutscenes, and I knew how machinima and all that stuff operates. So it wasn't like this, my God, how
Yeah, it didn't catch you by surprise. Yeah.
right. And I get so much support, from everybody on this that there's not a lot of difficulty in doing it.
And how do you
they
feel?
let me do it. They let me do it.
Yeah, and how do you feel that's actually translated for you going into Black Ops 3 prequel?
Well, very well, because because it's a prequel. It's very open. You can take a lot of liberties as long. It's all about where it all ends up. Not about how to get there. So you got a lot to play with on how to get there, and you've got these characters who are blank slates at this point. So developing the characters and how they interact and that drama is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I figure if it's interesting to me, it translates to being interesting to somebody else.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, sometimes you got to make the thing that makes you happy, that you
Right.
actually want to create, right?
Well, you have to believe in it.
You have to believe in what you're making. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the Tinkerbell syndrome. If you stop believing in the fairy, she dies.
You know what? I've
Just
never used that one before,
drops
but
dead.
now I will. That's it. The Tinkerbell reference, it lives on. No, but I think that's fantastic, and honestly, I think this is, it's very different for Call of Duty because again, Call of Duty is a game known for its multiplayer, but it's great to see how they've really taken kindly to approaching the story, telling a good story, and being able to, bring in different kinds of mediums to, tell that tale.
Right.
So you had mentioned before that, you have the creative freedom to do what you want to do. It's just where you end up with it.
Right.
How do you feel that's kind of, overall, like the process of, working with Activision, working with Treyarch, how do you feel that, freedom has allowed you to do what you need to do? Like, were there still some constraints in regards to some characters?
Obviously there are always going to be constraints, but I think that there's been a lot of progress in the last 20 years. Because I remember when I first started doing, crossover stuff and licensed materials, that the licensors were very uptight. And
It's a little bit more relaxed now.
well, it's because now everybody realizes the advantage of facilitating cross-platform everything.
Yeah.
To make it all consistent and make it all work, benefits everybody. And that if you make a little bit of compromise so that it works in all the iterations, everyone's a lot better.
Yeah, you tell the story that makes sense for the
Right.
medium of which you're utilizing to tell that story. It's again, to reference it, Call of Duty, right? It's a
Right.
game known for action and combat and all that. You have to tell a very story-driven, tale.
Well, that's the thing, is that in a static comic book, you cannot replicate the type of action that you can get on a screen.
Yeah.
So it's sort of senseless to just do nothing but action, in the comic. You have to have character development and character interaction, and enough of a plot,
Yeah.
so that people can get involved. I'm a believer that, like, most people don't care about the plot, because nobody ever remembers the plot.
Yeah. But I think if you make the plot memorable, you
People
give
still
them
don't
that.
remember it.
But I think if you,
I've seen every Harry Potter movie, and I can't tell you the plot of any. I
Well,
can't tell you the plot, but I can tell you who all the characters are.
That's true, and you are right. You are right about that. Characters are the most important part of it, right?
Right.
It's memorable. You want to attach to them. You want to be a fan of them, right? So in that realm, I definitely do agree with you that without a doubt, character development is by far one of the most
Right.
important things.
Well, somebody once said, you don't come back to see the sequel because you thought the plot was terrific.
Yeah.
You
Man,
come
that was
back
some good.
because-
That was some good plot. That was amazing plot. Those characters wasn't feeling the characters, but the plot. I love the plot. Oh my goodness.
Right,
No,
exactly.
yeah.
That's
I
when you
totally
stop
understand.
and think about it. That's That's what really drives it.
You go and we're at Comic-Con, right? And there's amazing stuff here, but the characters.
Right.
When you think about like
It's
your
all about the
Spider-Mans of the world and your Hellboys of the world,
anybody
and,
dressed as a plot.
yeah, exactly. Like all these amazing characters, like you remember that, and I totally agree with you. But honestly, it's fantastic. Just before we close out, how's your Comic-Con been so far for you?
Oh, it's been great.
You have a signing in a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Nice. And how's the reception been for the Black Ops 3 comic book?
Excuse me?
How's the reception been so far for the book?
Very good so far, yeah.
Nice. All right, well, thank
It's
you
only
so
the first
much.
issue out there, but
Yeah, the second issue comes out December 7th,
Yeah,
I believe.
I think so.
So that's some pretty exciting stuff. Really pumped for that one, guys. Make sure you check it out. Larry, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
But yes, you could go ahead and check out the Black Ops 3 comic book available from Dark Horse Comics. Very awesome stuff. Larry Hama, the writer on that project. Very excited to see where it goes.
Be sure to buy at least 3 issues.
Buy at least 3. Why not? And you know what? Stay for the character, maybe the plot. That's what we've learned here
Exactly.
today.